Great. I'll introduce Simon from here. Our next speaker is Simon Maple. He's actually one of our fellow sneakers, and he's going to be talking about AI hallucinations and manipulation. Lots of security stuff. It's very good. Enjoy.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Sam. And hello to everyone here and everyone online. Sam asked me to step in for a speaker who couldn't make it today. And I had about a month to prep. So I thought, I'll give a session called AI Hallucinations and Manipulation, which has existed for ages now. And I could have just given it as is, but I thought, no, that's a bit boring. So I decided to turn the whole thing upside down and create a kind of a new session, which talks about a lot of the same things, but does it in a cooler way. It means there's about 45 minutes or so of live hacking, which could go entirely wrong because there is going to be some AI driven code that could produce something different every time I type it. So fingers crossed, it produces some good code that we can work with. So let's jump in. A little bit about myself. My name's Simon Maple. I've been at Sneak for coming up to 6 years, or about 5.5 years. My background is 20 plus years in the Java community, and as a developer. I've probably done about 10, 12 years as an advocate as well. And yeah, I enjoy coding and talking to folks about cool tech. So happy to be here. There's a few things when we talk about AI. There's a number of different things that our thoughts might go to, and I kind of like bucketed them into three. The first one is really around AI-assisted applications. So what we're talking about here is if I, as a developer, wanted to bake AI into my application so that it could be used by a consumer of my app. Classic example here is a chatbot. That's one type. We're not going to be talking about that as much or virtually at all today. The other is AI-assisted processes. So this is outside of the core writing code development piece, but things that help us deliver. So it could be anything, some cool AI stuff in Jira, or it could be something along the pipeline that does something snazzy in using AI. We're not going to be talking about that either. We're going to be talking about AI-assisted coding. So generative AI in a form that helps us write code, helps us look at code, helps us comment code, all these cool types of things. There's a number of things that we could talk about here. Could be Copilot, could be ChatGPT, could be Bard, could be Code Whisperer. What are people using today? Who's using generated AI within code? A few people, number of people. It's getting more and more as the seconds go past. What are you using? Is it Copilot mostly? Copilot. Anyone not using anyone using something other than Copilot? Yep. GPT-4. Anything else? Anyone using Bard? No one using Bard. Anyone tried Bard? Yeah. Not so good. It's okay. Anyone AWS Code Whisperer? No? Okay, cool. So mostly Copilot. Okay, we're going to be using mostly Copilot today as well, so that's good. Okay, the agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about AI in dev, but we're going to really go down into this building the coffee shop app using Copilot. We're going to hopefully use Copilot to also add some vulnerabilities into our code, and we're going to hack those vulnerabilities, and we're going to fix those vulnerabilities. But we're going to show you how easy it is to do that using generative code, and then some tips at the end about your approach to securing a process or a development process when you're using generative AI. So the problem of us going into a more agile, a DevOps kind of space, delivering much faster means we throw more vulnerabilities into production. Our security teams are already at breaking point with the amount of code that we're pushing into production. So what do? Well, we come up with something like generative AI, which is a dev supercharger. It helps us to deliver to production faster with more code. Wonderful. Apart from when we think about what that means to the vulnerabilities, the speed of which vulnerabilities are getting into our code. This is exacerbating the problem, really. And when we think about problems within generative AI, there's actually a really good post. I think it was originally on LinkedIn. Elko DeVos, which is ChatGPT is confidently wrong. Here's an example. He writes, what is 5 times 9 plus 4 times 3? Give the answer first, then the explanation. So it does that. It says the answer is 51. To get this answer, and it breaks it down, 5 times 9 is 45. That's correct, I think. 4 times 3 is 12. That's definitely correct. 45 plus 12 is 51. We know that's wrong. It should be 57. There's a little bit here, which is more of a formatting problem. It uses the stars as italics. But it says 5 times 9 plus 4 times 3 equals 51. So Elko says, are you sure about that last result? Yes, I am confident. So what are we learning here? Well, there are not just mathematical problems here. It could be lawyer problems, it could be defamation problems. The problem is the same. AI will be wrong at some point. And when it's wrong, it's very confident about it. It doesn't know it's wrong. And that's really, really important to understand. Code surely is different though, right? It must know, doesn't it? It doesn't know about code either. And we're going to show that to you now. So, in fact, let me keep that slideshow up, and I'll jump across to a couple of things. Right, we're going to jump into some live demo now. No, go away. We're going to jump into some live demo, and in this live demo, we are going to first of all show you some code. Hopefully, this is about right in terms of the screen size. I'll try and increase it as we go. But this is a Java application called Coffee Shop. It was written by a colleague of mine, Brian Vermeer, who actually forked it from someone else on GitHub there. And it is an application which, in fact, I'll show you it here. It's an application which currently doesn't have a homepage. It's one of the things that we're going to be adding to it. And we're going to be adding a number of different pieces of functionality here using Copilot in our IDE. A couple of things that I'm going to do. First of all, I'm just going to create a quick new branch. Create a new branch. And I'm going to call that branch just devsetcon. We'll create that new branch. And this is the branch that we're going to do all our work in. We're going to push to that, and then we're going to create a pull request back over to the master branch when we're comfortable with what we're doing. We're going to go to IntelliJ IDEA, and in here, if I go to my Git repository, let's just fetch that new branch. There's our devsetcon branch. I'm going to check out my devsetcon branch. So now I'm working in the devsetcon branch. Okay. Next thing I want to do is mention that we are using Copilot in this environment. So Copilot is, for those of you who haven't seen Copilot, it's a GitHub tool that will work inside your IDE. And as I write comments and as I do certain things, it will automatically generate various code based on my comments to try and predict what is the kind of thing I want to actually write. And I can accept that, I can make changes to it and so forth. It's pretty neat. I've got that installed, and I'm going to be using that. Now. So the first thing I want to do is let's jump over to. Let's jump back over to here. These are the lists of things that I want to do. I've got 5 things that I'm going to do. The first one is I basically want to create my homepage. I want a homepage that has a top banner on it and something that lists the products in my coffee shop. Okay, so that should be fairly straightforward. I'm going to jump over to my index.html. And as part of that index.html, I'm going to create a couple of things here. So I'm going to, let's say, create or add a header as a fragment. Hit return. Let's see what it does. That's not too bad, actually. So we'll keep that one. Okay, so we've got a header. In fact, I can save that. Let's take a quick look at my runtime. This is a Spring Boot application, so it's running in a nice little Tomcat server, and it's actually pretty quick to run, so I can refresh that. And we have our nice little coffee shop. I can log in, register, and see this is a Sneak coffee shop. Wonderful. Next thing I want to do, let's use Copilot again. I want to create not a form to add a new coffee. I'm going to create a product table as a fragment. Let's see what it does. It's close, but no cigar. Let's try this. There we go. That's not too bad. So we have a new products table block. That all looks good. Let's save that, rerun this. And as soon as the server comes up, there we go. So we have a coffee shop. We got this will be a table once we have a list of products in there, and we have a little bit of search functionality there. So you can see how Copilot is the fragments were already written, but Copilot is predicting what I want to write, and it's actually a nice little tool for that. So it's working. Let's ship it. So I'm going to say here, let's say homepage created. Add that. Commit and push. There's a failed check as an error. Element div is not closed. Is that right? It's because that's not there. Let's now commit and push that. Wow, almost pushed something bad to production. Could you imagine? Okay. That's been pushed across. So that is our first thing that we've done with Copilot. Shipped it. Wonderful. Number 2, we want to make the Copilot from the IntelliJ like this. Okay, cool. Okay, and I'll make this a touch bigger as well. So the next thing, we want to make the product table searchable. So what we just had here, right now, there's no products coming out of this. If I was to do something like maybe bean or something like that, hit submit, it'll provide me with all the list of products that have bean in the name. Sounds pretty simple. Let's take a look at the code on here. So the code here, if I go to the home controller, oops, that's a little bit small as well. This is probably just the default size. If I go to the home controller, I'll move this across as well. If I go to the home controller, in here, you'll see over here, the post mapping of slash, we get an input, okay, from my request parameter. So my search box is providing a request, a parameter on that request, which is input, and we send that into this search repository on search product. And as you can see here, this is not implemented. So I want to do a few things here. This is where we are going to try and use Copilot to do things like, oh, that looks cool. Implement the search product method. No, didn't want to do that. Okay, too generic. Let's do something like, let's lowercase the input. That's a good start. That does look good. I'm just going to add a variable there. So let's call that lower input. Okay, and now let's create the query. So yeah, let's create a string query that matches in the input. Yeah, that's what I wanted. The input to the product name or the description. You know, since Copilot, I tab. You probably do this as well. You tab comments. It's like such a weird thing to do, right? It's tabbing comments, but I get too used to it. Okay, this looks interesting. So we have a query here. Select from star from product, where the lowercase product name, which is correct, is like lower input, which is my lower input there, or the description is like lower input. Actually, pretty good, not too bad. What do I want to do next? I probably want to create that query, create a list of products from the query. Now I want to create. I want to create a native query from the string query. That looks good. And then I want to return the result set, which is basically essentially running that and sending that back to me. Wonderful. Okay, that looks pretty good. Let's run that. Looks like it's going to run. Is this going to run? There we go. Okay, that worked. So that's the power of AI, right? Pulling data out of using a SQL statement there, pulling some code out of a database that we already have, and I have some coffees and I have some beers. So pretty good. We should. Oh, let's also do a test to see. There's some beers here. There's a couple of ales. Let's do a search on ale. And there we go. We've got some matches in the description. And let's also do Captain's Nuts, America. Let's do America. There we go. So we're matching on name and description as well. So that's cool. Yeah, let's ship it. So homepage created and search implemented. Okay, let's commit and push that. Select files to commit. Commit and push. 7 warnings. Data sources is fine. Dialect is fine. Just some warnings. Nothing significant there. We ship with warnings every day. We as in the coffee shop, not Sneak. Okay, so that's been pushed. In fact, let me go back over to my GitHub repo there. You can see there's pushes that have been made. Let's compare and create a pull request here. Let's push that back to my master. We're able to merge. Perfect. Create a pull request. This is going really well. And then we run our tests. Okay, as you'd expect, in the real world, we'll have builds and all kinds of tests here to make sure that everything's going well. And here we're testing our third-party vulnerabilities for new third-party vulnerabilities passes. We haven't actually changed it. This tests the delta, so we haven't added any new vulnerabilities. That's fine. We haven't added any new licenses as a result. That's fine. But we have an issue, and it's in our code. Okay, which is strange. Let's go to the details. And we see it's an SQL injection, okay? And that SQL injection occurs here in the search product. Oh, no, don't do that. Why would you do that? There we go. So I click on full details. There we go. I'm sure a few of you recognized why there's an SQL injection here, and maybe even cringed as it was happening. What's happening? Someone tell me what's happening. I'm not sanitizing the string. So let's take a look at this. So we start off in home controller. Okay. The string comes in. This is user input, right? Comes in as input. The next thing we do is we pass that to the search product. We go through the search product and it goes all the way through. Nothing's really changing here. We go to the query, and this is what you're saying here. We add it directly in, and there's zero sanitization, and we push the query in here. Okay, and that's one of the core issues. So what would you? Let's go back here then. In fact, let's rather than I already have pushed that up. So what would you do to exploit this then? Well, we can see we can see this. So this is where the input's coming in. So what would you do here? A Bobby drop tables. We're not doing a Bobby drop tables. Not doing Bobby tables. Not even in a demo, because I have to create the tables again. But we could do something like that, right? So what we want to do is what you're saying, Marcin, is we effectively want to close off the SQL statement, build another SQL statement that is going to do something malicious, and then potentially ignore everything that goes afterwards, right? So here, I might want to say, let's add a %. So we have % to %. Let's add a closed % is wildcard. We close off that string. We add a semicolon to finish that statement. Okay. Now we type something malicious, and then at the end we do double dash. Okay. Double dash is the comment, so that anything that comes on afterwards will get ignored. So there's no errors that are going to be coming out of this. All right. So now something malicious that I can add here. What can I do? Well, maybe what I'll do is let's try. At this point, I will, as a malicious person, I might try something. Let's say update. Guess a table name, product, set. I can do something. Well, I could set the price. I'm without a schema, I'm guessing, right? But you would continue to do this until something happened, like all the prices turned to 0 or something like that, right? I might say, oh, I wish I copied that now. Let's do an update product, set the description to equal something. Let's do this time say where ID equals 9 or something like that. And the description could be, this beer sucks. And I'll copy that. And we do a look again, and we can start changing things directly on the database. I might do something like, who thinks this is going to work? Anyone? Let's do an alert or something like that, right? So I'm adding the alert in here, and anyone know what this is looking like? Cross-site scripting, exactly. This is where I'm trying to embed a script in, so that without sanitization, the browser could see this as a script that it's actually going to try and run. So I run that, and it doesn't. And the reason it doesn't actually is because if I go to my product tables HTML, I'm using what's this called? Timeleaf. That's it. Yeah. And Timeleaf is going to do its own sanitization through that. So we're actually luckily hopping on to the security defaults of a framework that we're using. So yeah, that's the exploit for cross-site scripting. So what are we going to do? What would you do with this? Let's go back to my search repository. What would you do to fix this? Don't use AI. No. Imagine how slow I would develop without AI. I'd be almost the same. Parameterize. You can use parameterization. You can use stored procedures, named queries, named parameters, those kind of things. So let's comment this out. Should we ask Copilot to fix it? Okay. Create a string query that matches. So let's say create a string query with named parameters that match. So it's the same thing, but I'm saying named parameters. And there we go. Select from stars, exactly the same, except we're using named parameters, right? So the other thing that I do need to do here now, look at that. Is that right? That looks right. Hit save, ship it. Let's run it. Let's run it. There we go. So now I'm using named parameters. This is now a function which expects specific things in these places. And now my specific thing is a lower input. That can't close, the statement and create new statements. It's expecting a parameter. Now, if I was to come here, can I? Oh, damn. Let's try, what is it? Percent. Oh, dear. Percent. That. Let's say update product to set the price to one whatever unit of whatever it is. No products found. That's a big difference, right? That's not executing. It's now trying to do the match with that string. So it's not actually doing the SQL injection. Very important difference. If I now submit, my prices are actually all gone from 0 to normal prices. That's because I recycled the server, and this is just dummy data. Okay, but it hasn't changed to 1, which is the important thing. Okay. So let's ship it. Let's go fixed SQL injection on this. Commit and push. Commit anyway and push. Go. Production waits for nobody. Right, now let's go back to my Git pull request because we've added some commits to that. It's going to be testing again. Fingers crossed. In fact, yeah, actually, I'll do that in a sec. Fingers crossed. Really fingers crossed. Sneak is now going to recognize, or in this case, whatever testing you use is going to recognize that the changes that have been made are now no longer vulnerable because we've done the sanitization effectively by using the named parameters. And this normally takes a little bit faster, but I'm going to say it's going to be fixed in 3, 2, 1, and perfect timing. This is the joy of a live demo. It's because we're not close enough to the Sneak office, otherwise it would be faster. There we go. All checks have passed just in time. Okay, so now the SQL injection doesn't appear as a vulnerability. Wonderful. So we can say this is now shipped. Okay, the next one, allow users to personalize their profiles. Okay, and to do this, the user requirement is users can upload their own avatar to their own profile. Let's go ahead and do this. We're going to jump to my coffee shop. I'm going to log in. My username is Simon. My password is 123123. Chrome's going to say, you're stupid. I know. It's a demo. I'm going to go. So I'm logged in as Simon. I'm going to go into my profile. Here's my wonderful profile. You can see my image is there. I'm going to choose a file. That file is going to be called Simon Maple. There's the JPEG. Beautiful picture. Hit upload. Nothing happens. The reason nothing happens is because if I go back to my code, and I take a look at my upload controller, upload image has nothing in it. So we need to implement this upload image. Upload image takes an image, a multi-part file, as my input, and doesn't do much with it. So what am I going to do? Let's take a look. Using Copilot again, I'm going to not save the file locally, but I'm going to, maybe actually, I think I'll get the file and save it somewhere. I think the upload directory that we have here, save it to upload directory. Okay, so let's do that and see what it see what it comes back with. So we do a string name, file.getOriginal file name. So this is the original file name that I'm using, that I would use locally. In this case, it would have been simonmaple.jpg. So that's good. We do a file.getBytes. That's also good. We do a files.write. And we're adding the upload. Okay, so we're adding we connect the upload directory to the name, which we're using here from our original file name. And sending in the bytes from that file. So far, so good. Okay, that's it. It looks like that's all done. A couple of other things that I'm going to do is just uncomment this. A few things that we're doing here. We're going to add an attribute. So this is just a message to say that oh, this is nice. It's the same name that we're using. Wonderful. We're going to add an attribute saying that we've uploaded the image. We're going to set this profile picture on the person, and we're going to save that person back to the database. Okay, so all looks good. Hit save. Should I ship it? Maybe I should test it first. Yeah, let's test it first. Okay, this time I'm actually going to go to Chromium via Burp Suite. So I'm going to use Burp Suite here. I'm going to open a quick browser, and you'll see why a little bit later. But I'm going to go to localhost 8081. I'm going to log in as Simon 123.123. And as I do things, you'll see that Burp Suite is taking all my requests, and we can see exactly what's going to be sent to and from my server. And we'll take a look at exactly what's being sent. Let's make this a touch bigger here. Right, so we've logged in. Let's go to my profile, and this time I'm going to upload the same file, Simon Maple. There it is. I'm going to upload that file. Hit upload image. Did that work? It didn't work. I didn't recycle my server, did I? Let's actually push the code that I've changed into my runtime, and then we'll do exactly the same thing again. So let's quickly log out. Let's go back into Simon 123.123, log in, profile, upload Simon Maple. There it is. Open, upload image. There we go. So we get our message out. Okay, so this is definitely uploaded nicely. If I go to profile, there's that wonderful image. Okay, so this is all looking good. I think we should ship it. So, actually, this time, last time we actually waited till we got to the Git repo before testing. This time, given everything, all the generation is happening locally, why don't we test and get that feedback as early as we possibly can before I even need to push? What's good about testing where you push to is, irrespective of what I do locally, there is going to be some policing, there is going to be some testing. But at this stage, perhaps what I should do, in this case, I've got tooling locally, so obviously sneak, as I'm a sneaker. I'm going to be running the sneak IDE scan, and this is going to be running code security against this. So let's take a look at what the issue is. And we see we have a path traversal. Okay, anyone heard of a path traversal before? Yeah, lots of nods. Who could tell me? I'll go through this in a sec. Who can tell me where my issue was in the code that I've written there? What's wrong with my code? We know there's a path traversal. Any thoughts? Yes, Chris. Not sanitize the name. Okay, so what do you feel like we need to sanitize on that? Not a dot slash, yeah? Because when we add this to this, if there's a whole ton more dot slashes, we could actually come out with a path that is outside of my upload directory, right? If we go all the way back to the root and then do something there, I could actually overwrite a system file or put things in a directory that shouldn't be there. That's absolutely right. In fact, if I go, let's actually have a look at where we come from. So we come here from the request image, the path, file dot. So this is the user input file. We get name from that. And then we do a write with that here. So it's exactly right. One of the other things that we can look at here is what we actually can do. Sorry, I don't think I can expand this, but what we actually can do to fix this. And what this is saying is we need to get the canonical path. So the path, effectively the normalized path without the dot slashes, and make sure that starts with the canonical path of the target directory. So essentially, flatten the constructed directory together. Does it start with my target directory plus a file separator? Because we don't want it to just look like the start of the target directory and actually it be another directory afterwards. So rather than target, I might say target 123, and actually that would satisfy this unless I put that file separator. So that's what we want to do. Let's I tell you what, why don't we let's do this again with, if I move this out here, so this is paths, yeah, paths equals that, or should that be is that a file? Oh, that's what I wanted. Okay, and then we'll just add path in here. Okay, so same code, just slightly moved. I could have just extracted the variable. What I want to do is I want to here. Oh yeah, until I've been out of the game for a while. Hey, Martin. There we go. Let's do some. Let's create the directory if it doesn't exist. No, let's test if path is vulnerable to. Oh, look at that path traversal. Okay, let's see what this does. Paths.get. No, I don't want that. Test if path is vulnerable. Okay, we could do that. Okay, let's do something else. Validate. And one thing with Copilot is if you just slightly write things in a slightly different way, it'll generate you some different code, like that, for example, right? First one was a comment, second one's actual code. So we do a path.normalize, make sure it's, and that's probably, normalize is probably all right, but I kind of prefer, actually, what is it? Actually, I think a canonical path is on file, so I'll leave it with that, and let's see if that works as well. Starts with upload directory, and actually it's not quite done it fully. What I want is a file separator on here as well. Okay, if the path does not start with upload directory in the file separator, then say it's an invalid path, hit save. Let's rerun that again. Oh, actually, let's just rerun it with Sneak. There it is. Let's rerun. There we go. And our path traversal has gone away. So that's fixed the issue. Let's actually go back, comment that out. Let's put that into production. And let's actually see how we would go about exploiting this. I'm going to do this in Chromium as well, because this is where the exploit is going to be. So let's log out. Let's go to Simon. Let's go to 123.123. Let's go to my profile. We're going to upload a new image called Simon Maple. Simon Maple. One of those. We hit upload. Upload image. That's uploaded. Let's now go to my burp suite and take a look at the request that was made there. Sorry, this is going to be a tiny bit small. I'm not sure I can increase the size of this. No, it just moves tab. But what you'll see, hopefully, in here, if I scroll that up, is we are sending a request, a post request, which contains the image, but also has a file name of simonmaple.jpg, right? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to send this to a repeater, go to my repeater, and I'm going to change the original file name. This is the input, which is going in that we needed to sanitize, right? What can I change it to? Let's go to have a look at this and copy my image address and take a look at where my image address is. My image address is localhost image Sneak logo. So let's do exactly what Chris suggested and do a .. We go to the image and we update this. So we're effectively overwriting the Sneak logo with the file that I just created. We resend that. If I look down here, it said we have uploaded that image. And if I come back to my coffee shop and hit refresh, let's take a look if this Sneak logo still exists. Oops. Hang on. It's been replaced by my logo. Okay, this is a path traversal. I'm going outside of my uploads directory, uploading application files. If I had root access or something on that machine, I could start upgrading system files and so forth, right? Dangerous vulnerability, potentially, particularly if you have upload permissions rather than just, you know, a path traversal with read, but still an important one. Okay, my last two, which we're going to do together, and then we'll jump through a few slides and then we'll be done. So my last two is I have the list of products from my coffee shop. Next thing I want to do is write some code to have a unique product page for each product in my coffee shop, and then link from my product pages, to my product pages from my homepage. Okay, so let's take a look at what this looks like. In fact, I very kindly, one of my colleagues, not at Sneak, in my coffee shop, has kindly half written this for me. And I actually have, if I click on one of these, already have a product page, which is configured. It provides what the product is called. In this case, it's a coffee called The Delight. I have a description. In this case, it tells me about the body of the coffee. I can tell the type is a coffee, and I have the price. And this is done through a URL and endpoint that takes in a parameter followed by a string that you know tells me what the product is. The piece that I'm going to add to this is actually in my product tables HTML. If I scroll to this bit here, I'm going to change I'm going to change this. I'm going to comment this out, the product name, and add the line which says I'm actually going to add this as a link. So I'm going to still have the product name from in the home page, but I'm going to add that as a link to the direct pages. So let's refresh this. Let's spin this off again. We'll go back to my coffee shop. If I hit homepage there, now you can see these are links, right? And what this does is it sends the name of the product as a link to my next page. So if I click on Seattle Cake, you'll see the parameter it's sending is Seattle Cake, and that's the data that we have. Okay, let's take a look at the product controller that we're actually using to generate this code. The product controller, very straightforward. Again, a bit old school this time. It generates a lot of the code itself. So we're outputting, in fact, let's start from the direct link, the get mapping for /direct. It takes in a request parameter. For those of you not familiar with Spring, this is just a Spring annotation that basically says this is going to be coming in from as a parameter on the HTTP request. This is effectively the name of the product. I pass that through to a build product page along with the description, the product type, and the price, which we pull from the actual product. Okay, in here, I do some writing. I say, here's the product name, add that into the header, and also add as a kind of like a list, the description, the product type, and the price. Okay, what's wrong with my code? Other than a lot, what are the security issues with my code? Any thoughts? Definitely a cross-site scripting. Okay, and where would this cross-site scripting be? So we need a user input, right? User input comes in through param. We get the product name. Okay, so it's something that's already in our database. That's okay. Param gets passed in here as a product name, and then we pass that directly out there, right? So could contain tags, could contain all kinds of things. In fact, this isn't now timely, so it could mean that we can see there's no sanitization there. So perhaps if I was to do something here, like I don't know, let's say instead of saying the parameter is Seattle Cake, let's say the parameter is something more like this. Those of you who can't see this, it's param with a script tag, an alert with document.cookie, and a close script tag, right? So if I was to run this, now we get our cross-site scripting. That has now embedded itself into this page being run by the browser. It pulls out my document, grabs the cookie off of that, and is now doing an alert on that, right? But this is my data. This is what I'm pushing into this page, okay? So this is good, but what we really need is for everyone else to see that, not just me, because I'm the one that's adding this into my page. Let's go back to my search repository. In fact, let's undo the security that we added here. Let's also undo the set parameter. So now we can actually make changes to the database as well. And this is exactly what happens in real life. When we talk about attacks and hacks, there's never one hack. It's a combination of hacks that provide us with more permissions, better access to data, and so forth. And it's this almost catastrophe of vulnerabilities and exploits and hacks, which actually get people the data. Look at something like Equifax. That was like 6 to 8 weeks from the first hack to the actual breach, right? This doesn't happen overnight, or rarely happens overnight. So we'll rerun this. Okay. That looks good. Let's go to, in fact, I'll grab this script here. Let's go back to my my search products here. Let's do, again, something along those lines. But here I'm going to do an update. I'm going to update product. I'm going to set my product name to equal that script. And let's say where ID equals 9. Okay. So now what I'm doing is I'm making a change to the database. If I look at that now, we have our script. Now anyone can click this. And when anyone clicks that, I get their session ID, right? And what I would do is not just print an alert. What I would do is I would use my wife's AWS account to set up a nice little server, and I would request an image on that server with the same name as the JSession ID, probably base64 encoded. And I will get a list of wonderful errors with everyone's base64 encoded session IDs. And then I can use those session IDs to go in and impersonate someone and potentially perform that attack. So yes, there is a problem here, but how would I know there is a problem on my product controller? Well, let's grab the code and let's go to our friend. And unfortunately, this is ChatGPT 3.5. I should try it with 4 as well. But let's say, hey, buddy, I need your help with a code review. And it says, my internet's down right now. There we go. Of course. Come on, quicker. It's going to be this is going to be a normal paced code review, unfortunately. I'd be happy to help with a code review. Please provide me with your, stop generating. Here's my code. Messaging conversation not found. Okay, let's do this again. Okay, new chat. Please, let's say something like, is this code ready for production? Let's see what it says. It's an Spring MVC controller for managing products, blah, blah, blah. Error handling, I could do with has errors. That's true. Make sure, here we go. Okay, very generic. You might need to implement authentication. I may need to, yes. Build product page, HTML generation. That's correct. Exception handling, okay. Tell me more about security. Is this code secure? Provided code does not appear to have any explicit security vulnerabilities. Important considerations. Input validation. It does talk about input validation. It does talk about cross-site scripting. Okay. But it doesn't actually say there's a problem. It thinks it's okay. Is there any cross-site scripting problem in this code? Potential in the build product where it generates HTML. Here's the portion in question. Okay, so interesting. It's found a potential problem, but not in the actual line, which is probably most dangerous. It's found a problem in that I am doing a string output, but these are things that I haven't actually changed in my database. The thing that I could actually use directly from the parameter, from the user input, is actually just above this. So let's actually see what Sneak can do here as well. In fact, I know what Sneak's going to provide. 2 cross-site scriptings, one here, one here. And I can see from here, it's taking it directly. I know that was shocking, wasn't it? For those on the call who didn't witness that, there was beer thrown everywhere, glasses, cups. It was shocking. It's come from the parameter. There is potential for it to come from that database as well, potential cross-site scripting, because we should still assume things from a database may not be already sanitized and things like that. But actually, the suggestion it gives was actually pretty good. HTML utils. Let's have a look at what Sneak suggests here as well. String escape utils is another good one. Escape there. What I could probably use here is HTML utils as well. .html escape, and that would be the Spring a Spring equivalent. That would do exactly the same thing. And in fact, if I was to let me just save that, rerun this, and hopefully it'll just be that second one that has the issue. But this is exactly what we want to do. Why does a security tool pick it up and not ChatGPT? The biggest reason actually is because a security tool understands what it's looking at. ChatGPT doesn't. ChatGPT, it's just a list of tokens. It's a list of words. It doesn't understand the data flows. It doesn't understand assignments. It doesn't understand any kind of flow through a piece of code. So what it didn't understand here, it didn't understand the fact that my param is the same as a product name. Okay, and that's really, really important. If you don't like, if I was to look at a cross-site scripting here, this data flow is important. When things change, when things go cross files, that's a really important flow to understand. Where am I getting my data from a user? Is it hitting something that can be exploited? And is there some sanitization in between? Unless you have those three things, you can't more definitively say whether something's a vulnerability or not. One of the things, actually, incidentally, which we use under the covers with Sneak is something called symbolic AI. And this is a much more tokenized AI, which actually creates graphs from your code. And the way we work under the covers is we look at patterns in the graph rather than patterns in the code. So we're actually looking for paths from certain sources to certain sinks and identifying if there are sanitizations through those. And that's a really important distinction to make because we're looking at it more symbolically versus text driven. It's just an interesting thing to work out. Okay, back to the slides. We've shipped everything. Hurrah! Excellent. And yeah, I need more memes. So there's two. Okay. A little bit more time, so just a few minutes on what we've learned really from these examples. A couple of things that are really, really important. People will jump on AI super quick because it is cool, it is magic, it feels like magic, and it feels like it can help you. The one thing that we need to educate on is what the risks are and what the mitigations can be. We need, as companies, to be able to write policies and share those policies, make people aware of those policies, make people aware of the company guidelines. We need to understand one of the big problems that I didn't actually mention it. One of the big problems I did was I just copy pasted my code straight into ChatGPT. Right? What's the IP? What's our company policy on this? Right? You got to remember that when you're sharing something to a public, OpenAI, ChatGPT, whatever, any kind of like public GPT, whatever you share there, you've got to be comfortable saying, I want the next version to train on that and for other people to get similar results to what I'm sharing with you. If you're not, don't put it in there. Know when to mandate human interaction. If you have AI generation that is providing you with third-party libraries, they should absolutely every single day be checked to make sure that is a real library, it's not a malicious library, and so forth. You can also use tools to help with this as well. And never trust AI. Always validate, always verify, whether it's in a code review, whether it's using tooling as I showed, whether it's in your Git repo or your local repos, always validate that what you're doing isn't just doing a job, but is doing the job in the right way. Just today, I launched this cheat sheet, which is a 10 best practices for securely developing with AI. We'll share the slides, I'm sure, so you can grab this off the Sneak blog. A few days ago, a couple of weeks ago, I also did another cheat sheet, which talks about the OWASP top 10 for LLMs. So if you are building AI into your app, as I mentioned at the start, so that your users can use the AI in your applications, this is really, really important. It goes through a ton of other stuff. I've also got this cheat sheet for that as well. It covers all of the top 10 and goes into our opinionated version of what is important, what is not. Prompt injection, number one, look at direct and indirect prompt injection. If you haven't looked at the Gandalf from Lakira, really, really good educational mechanism to help developers understand prompt injection and do it in a fun way. I'd really recommend trying that out. And in fact, this is exactly what it is. It's a prompt where Gandalf knows the password, and you have varying levels of guards to stop you asking about the password and stop it giving you the password. And by going through the various levels, it will teach developers about the importance of giving your LLM access to your data, and also understanding that what it can provide could be hallucinations, could be wrong, or could be sensitive data when you actually don't want it to be sensitive data. And it's these input and output guards that are absolutely core. Lakira also provides something called, I think it's Lakira Guard or something like that, which does work for this as well. Sneak Code's free as well. If you wanted to try that, have a play with that. It's free in the ID. You're more than welcome to try that, or you can go to take a look at sneak.io, and there's a full platform of other products there as well, freemium as well as paid. That's everything I have. Sorry if that was a touch longer than I expected, but I hope you found that both fun and useful, and you learned a few things along the journey. So yeah, please use AI securely, but enjoy it. It's one of those inevitabilities. And thank you very much for your attention, both in the room and online. Thank you. I'll take questions just in a sec, but Sammy, do you want to jump through a couple of slides?
Yeah, let's do that. Hold on, this one. So yeah, for your Q&A, as a reminder, our next event will be on the 19th of October, same place, same time, with two amazing speakers joining us. We're looking at another security story as well as 90 days of DevOps learning. Both amazing speakers, so please come along. As I said, it will be live streamed as well. But you get to interact with the speakers if you come and have a beer and a pizza. But yeah, that's our next event. Also, if you'd like to know a little bit more about how to get involved in a Capture the Flag event, Sneak is hosting a community event on the 27th of October. It's a 24-hour event, self-paced, get your own team. Maybe we can even have a DevSecCon London team submit. John Hammond will be live streaming it and kind of taking all the challenges and taking everyone through it. So again, you can find that information on Sneak.io and the other event on devseccon.com. But come along to one or both of those. Love to have you there. And as a reminder, obviously all our other events, all over the live stream. So check them out too. But let's ask some questions.
Yeah, if there's any questions, happy to take them both online or.
We do have one online if we want to warm up with that. Oh, that is so loud. So when you do it, hold it here. But we have Eric from Texas, and he would like to know, would an LLM that is more specifically trained in software security topics do better?
It would, well, so yeah, there are a number of LLMs that are very generic, very broad. Anything natural language processing tends to be very, very broad, which is what makes them great. Anything that is further fine-tuned will be better in its area, so it will be more accurate in its area. However, when it comes to things like security, what you put in, you will get out. So effectively, if you train things on large amounts of code, unless that code is all absolutely vulnerability free, you will get those vulnerabilities pulled straight into the suggestions that are coming out. Okay, so whatever you put in, quality of code, everything from performance to scalability, etc., you will get that out the other end. That's what it's training.
Cool. I think we fixed it, so you won't scream. Any questions from the humans in the room?
So I guess the bit with your reasonably contrived bit of uploading a profile picture still had fundamentally a problem that you can go and wipe any other person's file, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we get better suggestions apart from like mitigating the thing that's right in front of you, which was sure there was a traversal? It's still basically a security vulnerability, right? That you've effectively got an ability to get an image in front of another user.
Yeah, and I think there are, AI will effectively give you output for exactly what you asked for. The broader problem, which you're suggesting, isn't a coding issue, it's an architecture issue, right? So perhaps that file should actually be stored somewhere else, maybe not on a flat file system, maybe in an object database or something else like that, where you can actually have much better permissions and things like that on it. So it's a very interesting question, whereby one of the things that AI won't do necessarily helping us today is architecting in the right way. So the security by design, or architecting a particular application in a particular way, that still needs to come from us. So I think, certainly for now anyway, but that's the same problem that we've always had. That's not, AI is not there to fix that thing. So yeah, that's definitely a something at code review, something at the before we even start our implementation, when we think about the design, those are the questions. That's the time when we need to actually be able to ask those questions. Maybe pull a security person in at that time and talk about how we build, how we architect the application at that point. So not an AI problem really.
No.
Your thoughts on that?
Well, whether it's I don't know the line between architecture and software design these days, but the main thing I guess was the straightforward thing. I'd probably suggest, if I was looking at the code and pairing with you, which is what you're hoping that Copilot is supposed to be doing, would be, don't use this for human input for a file name that you're doing anything with, right? Because who knows what will be in it and what file system you might move it to later. So instead use just write a GUID or something, in which case you'll be safe.
And that's really interesting, actually, because then it has to take in a whole new level in its training to understand what makes for good, because otherwise it's really picking what is used the most a lot of the time versus what is the best for this, for what you're actually trying to do. What is your use case? That's a really interesting one to work on there. I think that's probably potentially looking at, well, I'm not sure what the answer to that one is.
Cool.
But I don't think it's here right now.
Thanks. Cheers.
Any other questions? Cool. Well, Simon will be here for the rest of the evening, and he is also part of our Discord community. So if you have any questions afterwards, or you share it with your colleagues or friends, or you get your... Oh, never mind. Hold on. We have a question from Randall in San Francisco.
I've heard of him.
And he says, in your opinion, is it okay for engineers to start using autonomous agents to build software directly?
Yeah, great question. So an autonomous agent. So when you're talking about autonomous agents in AI, this is really taking the handcuffs a little bit more off your AI engine, whereby an agent could be something that decides to call a specific function based on what it thinks it's trying to do. So you ask it to do something, and it'll go, okay. If I need to do that, what I actually need to do is I need to send an email or do something else. And what it'll do, it'll call an agent to actually perform that task. Maybe it's sending an email. Maybe it's to execute something on the system and so forth. This takes us into an even deeper realm, whereby we're not just, it's one step further away from us being able to validate quickly, because it's actually taking the step to go on and perform that task, potentially without us even knowing about it or looking at it. Maybe we'll realize it after the fact. So it's really, really important that we put security, not gates, but security measures in the way here. And the right security measures that we can use is, first of all, protecting ourselves. So assume it's going to do something bad. Is it, should it have access to everything? Should it have permissions? Should it be able to reach that data? Should it be able to call these functions? If it does call these functions, am I doing it in a way that it doesn't actually have the chances to screw my entire system up when it does it, if it does something slightly wrong? Is there a way of actually putting a human interaction in between very significant actions? If it's doing something big on my data or something big on my system, should I get a user to actually validate, yes, this function is okay to run with this data, etc.? So it's definitely another... It's a new realm of potential types of vulnerabilities, and it can cause huge amounts more pain. And absolutely, there needs to be more security measures there to actually validate what it's doing and make sure that what it can do is limited to what it needs to do. Hopefully that answers your question, Randall. Hope that sheds a bit more light on some agents for you.
Oh my God.
And if you wanted to look at certain agents as well, LangChain is one that provides this kind of like agent running, and you've also got orchestrators as well that can actually run these one after the other and things like that.
Okay, this is a great one to actually end on.
Mm-hmm.
Final question for the night. And as I said, if you have any more questions, Simon is in our Discord server, so you can pop them all there. But to close tonight, we'd like to know, what are the most fun AI applications you can think of for security professionals?
For security professionals, ooh, that sounds a cool one. Well, fun in what way? Fun in what way? That's an interesting one.
Well, you decide to.
Yeah,
What do
I'm
you
not
mean?
sure. Anyone in the room have some fun AI experiences with security tooling or security professionals? I think personally, actually, coming back to your area, Chris, I think one area that I think will be is going to be really, really valuable and fun is in and around threat modeling, because I think this is a really super early stage where we can actually start making those kind of like decisions. I don't think it's done anywhere near enough. And so to have an AI voice there, which is almost kind of like automated to be able to do that kind of thing, that could be very, very interesting. Something automated with AI. Any other thoughts? Worm GPT. So tell me about Worm GPT. Do you want to throw the?
Yeah. Tell us about.
There's just loads of different ways that you could, well, besides Worm GPT, just play around with prompts and find interesting ways of getting information out of it, or get it to build you exploit codes when it's not supposed to.
Yeah.
Things of that nature.
Building up exploit code is a really, and then that's more kind of like from the hacking point of view, is a really interesting way. And actually, potentially it's easier for the security professionals to go on the offensive as well using those kind of tools, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, definitely an interesting area. I'll take a look at that.
But yeah, we use it in several different types of ways, that in terms of like building reports, automated findings, things of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we're looking at actually something in and around in Sneak actually of working out using almost like a text to or a voice to kind of like against your reporting, to be able to say, I wonder if this is what I want. Is there a way of actually then translating that into queries that you can actually look through your data and be able to provide you with the greatest risk and the greatest threats based on exactly what you're asking it, but doing it in such a way that you're just casually asking it versus building up queries and things like that, which is another interesting way of like assessing risk based on that.
So before we wrap up, we also asked the online audience what their favorite things were. And so just to read off a few, using it to analyze my work plans and generate ideas. Second one was also coming up with interesting attacks, methods, tools, and commands to do penetrate testing.
Yep.
Supposedly dark GPT, supposedly a ChatGPT that will help build malicious code and exploits.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, creating security risk assessment lists for engineering projects. So those are some of the things that came online. So thank you everyone watching virtually.
Awesome.
But huge thank you. As I said, Simon will be around. We still do have some pizza, although a little bit cold, and some beer. But thank you all for coming along. And please hopefully come to one of our events in October.
And that was the first time I've given that session. So would love feedback on Discord or in person as well, because I want to iterate on this a little bit. Zoom in. Thank you, Sean. That's super helpful. Thank you. Awesome.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks all.
Usual complaint.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I should have guessed that one. Yeah.